people are not weak because life is hard. They are weak because their minds are untrained. They react to everything. Words control them. Emotions decide for them. Pressure breaks them. And when life becomes uncomfortable, as it always does, they collapse inward, confused and exhausted. Mentally tough people are different. They remain calm when others panic. They stay silent when others argue. They endure when others escape. Not because life is kinder to them, but because they have mastered what most people never will, their own mind. This video is not for entertainment. It is a mirror. Everything you are about to hear will either sharpen you or expose what you have been avoiding. If you are willing to listen until the end, you will walk away with principles that change how you respond to pressure, conflict, loss, and uncertainty. Stay with this video. Do not skip. Each trait builds the next. Miss one, and the structure weakens. If you are ready to build discipline, emotional control, and quiet strength, subscribe now to the Inner Fortress. Like this video and share it with someone who needs inner mastery, not motivation. This is where excuses end. This is where strength begins. 1. Control of reactions. Mental toughness begins with one defining skill: the ability to control reactions. Not suppress emotions, not deny feelings, but to decide, consciously, how to respond when life applies pressure. Most people believe strength is about dominance, confidence, or aggression. In reality, strength is restraint. The person who controls themselves controls the situation. Life will test you daily. People will disrespect you. Plans will fail. Circumstances will change without warning. None of these things ask for permission. The only thing that remains in your control is your reaction. Mentally tough people understand this deeply. They do not waste energy trying to control the uncontrollable. They focus entirely on mastering their inner response. The emotionally weak react instantly. Their anger speaks before their logic. Their fear decides before their reason. Their ego demands immediate defense. One comment ruins their mood. One setback destroys their confidence. They live in constant emotional motion, exhausted by problems that do not deserve their energy. Mentally tough people pause. That pause is everything. It is not hesitation, it is discipline. In that moment of pause, they separate emotion from action. They feel the anger without becoming it. They experience frustration without letting it dictate behavior. This space between stimulus and response is where mental toughness is born. Stoic philosophy is clear on this point. Marcus Aurelius wrote that external events have no power over the mind unless the mind gives permission. Epictetus taught that people are disturbed not by events, but by their judgments about those events. Mentally tough people live by this rule, even if they have never read a single Stoic text. When insulted, they do not rush to defend their ego. When provoked, they do not seek revenge. When misunderstood, they do not over-explain. They understand that emotional reactions often do more damage than the original offense. Silence, calmness, and composure often speak louder than confrontation ever could. This does not mean mentally tough people are passive. It means they are intentional. They respond when response is necessary. They speak when speech has value. They act when action serves purpose. Everything else is noise, and they do not waste energy on noise. In conflict, this trait becomes obvious. While others raise their voices, mentally tough people lower theirs. While others argue emotionally, they remain measured. While others try to win the moment, they focus on long-term consequences. They know that losing control today creates problems tomorrow. Control of reactions also protects reputation. People remember how you behave under pressure. They remember who stayed calm when things went wrong. They remember who did not panic, lash out, or collapse emotionally. Over time, this builds quiet authority, not because you demand respect, but because your behavior earns it. Mentally tough people also understand that not every battle deserves participation. Some conflicts drain energy without producing value. Some arguments are traps designed to pull you into emotional chaos. Choosing not to engage is not weakness. It is strategic withdrawal. This discipline takes practice. The instinct to react is powerful. The ego wants immediate relief. The mind seeks justification. But mentally tough people train themselves to tolerate emotional discomfort without acting on it. They allow feelings to pass without letting them control decisions. Anger becomes information, not instruction. Fear becomes awareness, not paralysis. Disappointment becomes data, not despair. This ability to observe emotions rather than obey them separates the disciplined mind from the fragile one. Modern society encourages constant emotional expression. React immediately. Share everything. Respond to every trigger. Mentally tough people resist this pressure. They understand that emotional restraint is not repression, it is maturity. Not every emotion deserves an audience. This self-control creates freedom. If someone can provoke you at will, you are not free. If circumstances dictate your emotional state, you are not strong. Mental toughness begins the moment you reclaim authority over your inner world. This is why mentally tough people appear calm even during chaos. Their stability is internal, not dependent on outcomes. They do not need everything to go well to remain composed. They remain centered because they have trained themselves to do so. If you want to develop this trait, start small. Pause before responding to messages that trigger you. Breathe before speaking during conflict. Delay reactions that feel urgent. Over time, this pause becomes natural. Calm becomes default. Control becomes identity. Control of reactions is not about being emotionless. It is about being ungoverned by emotion. It is about choosing response over impulse. This is the foundation of an unbreakable mind. And without this foundation, no other trait of mental toughness can stand. 2. Discomfort. Mentally tough people do not live easier lives. They simply stop expecting life to be easy. This single shift changes everything. While most people move through life trying to avoid discomfort, mentally tough people accept it as part of existence. They do not romanticize suffering, but they do not fear it either. Discomfort is not a signal to quit. It is a signal to grow. Most people misunderstand strength. They think strength means feeling good all the time, being confident every day, or staying motivated. In reality, strength is continuing even when none of those things are present. Strength is showing up when you feel tired, uncertain, unappreciated, or afraid. Mentally tough people understand that comfort weakens the mind. Too much ease creates fragility. When life eventually becomes hard, and it always does, the comfort-trained mind collapses quickly. Stoic philosophy teaches voluntary discomfort for this reason. Seneca deliberately lived simply at times, reminding himself that luxury was not required for peace. This was mental training. By becoming familiar with discomfort, he removed its power. Mentally tough people still practice this principle today. They choose discipline over convenience. They wake up early when it is uncomfortable. They work when motivation disappears. They remain consistent when emotions beg for relief. They do not wait to feel ready. They act because action is required. Discomfort also teaches patience. Many people panic because they want immediate relief. Mentally tough people understand that some situations demand endurance, not solutions. Not everything can be fixed quickly. Some things must simply be carried with dignity. This mindset is rare in a world addicted to instant gratification. Mentally tough people do not numb discomfort with constant distractions. They do not escape through endless entertainment, noise, or validation. They allow silence. They allow boredom. They allow emotional weight to exist without trying to erase it immediately. This ability to sit with discomfort builds emotional strength. Pain, uncertainty, and fear lose their intensity when you stop fighting them. The mind becomes steadier. The body relaxes. Decisions become clearer. Another important aspect of discomfort is discipline without reward. Mentally tough people continue even when results are invisible. They understand that progress often hides before it reveals itself. They trust the process when others quit. They train without applause. They improve without recognition. They endure without complaint. This long-term mindset separates those who last from those who burn out. Discomfort also reveals character. Anyone can be composed when life is smooth. True mental toughness appears when circumstances apply pressure. Mentally tough people do not become cruel, desperate, or dishonest under stress. They remain aligned with their values. They understand that discomfort is temporary, but character is permanent. When challenges last longer than expected, mentally tough people adapt instead of collapsing. They adjust expectations without abandoning standards. They accept reality without resentment. This acceptance prevents bitterness. Many people become angry at life for being difficult. Mentally tough people understand that difficulty is not punishment. It is part of being alive. This understanding removes self-pity and replaces it with responsibility. If you want to develop comfort with discomfort, stop negotiating with difficulty. Stop asking how to avoid it, start asking how to face it with discipline and composure. Choose the harder path occasionally. Sit with silence. Do the thing you are postponing. Stay consistent when quitting feels tempting. Discomfort will not destroy you. Avoiding it will. Mentally tough people know this. 3. Emotional independence from others. One of the clearest signs of mental toughness is emotional independence. Mentally tough people do not allow their peace to be controlled by the opinions, approval, or behavior of others. Their emotional stability is internal, not rented from the outside world. Most people live emotionally dependent lives. Praise energizes them. Criticism wounds them deeply. Attention validates them. Rejection destabilizes them. Their emotional state rises and falls based on how others respond. Mentally tough people break this pattern. They appreciate approval but do not need it. They listen to criticism but do not absorb it blindly. They value connection but do not fear solitude. Their sense of worth is not negotiated daily. Stoic philosophy is firm on this point. Marcus Aurelius warned against placing happiness in the hands of others. Epictetus taught that relying on external validation is a form of bondage. Mentally tough people live this truth quietly. They know who they are even when misunderstood. They remain steady even when ignored. They stay grounded even when praised. This emotional independence creates freedom. When you no longer need approval, you stop performing. You stop over-explaining. You stop shrinking yourself to fit expectations. You become more authentic, not less. Emotionally dependent people often betray themselves to maintain acceptance. They tolerate disrespect. They suppress truth. They compromise values to avoid rejection. Mentally tough people refuse this trade. They would rather be disliked than dishonest. They would rather stand alone than abandon self-respect. They would rather be silent than fake. This does not make them cold, it makes them self-anchored. Mentally tough people still care deeply. They love sincerely. They invest emotionally where it matters. But they do not give everyone access to their inner stability. Emotional access is earned, not automatic. They understand that people project their insecurities, frustrations, and wounds onto others. Not every opinion deserves emotional weight. Not every reaction deserves a response. This discernment protects energy. When criticized unfairly, they reflect instead of reacting. When rejected, they adjust without collapsing. When misunderstood, they remain calm. They do not chase clarity from people who are committed to misunderstanding them. This emotional sovereignty is powerful. You cannot manipulate someone who does not need your approval. You cannot threaten someone who is comfortable being alone. You cannot control someone who governs themselves. This is why emotionally independent people often intimidate insecure minds. Their calm exposes dependence in others. If you want emotional independence, begin with awareness. Notice how often your mood changes because of others. Notice how praise excites you or criticism destabilizes you. Awareness breaks unconscious patterns. Then build internal standards. Measure yourself by your values, not reactions. Define success personally, not socially. Learn to validate your own effort. Over time, this inner reference point strengthens. When your peace no longer depends on others, you become resilient. When your worth is internal, you become unshakable. This is mental toughness. 4. Acceptance of reality without complaint. Mentally tough people do not waste energy arguing with reality. They understand a simple truth. Reality does not need permission to exist. Complaining does not change facts. Resisting what is already happening only multiplies suffering. Strength begins with acceptance. Acceptance does not mean approval. It does not mean liking the situation or surrendering ambition. It means seeing clearly what is before deciding what to do next. Mentally tough people face facts without emotional distortion. Most people struggle here. They complain because reality does not match their expectations. They argue internally with circumstances. They replay how things should have been. This mental resistance drains energy and delays action. Mentally tough people skip this stage. They acknowledge disappointment without dramatizing it. They accept loss without self-pity. They face difficulty without resentment. Stoic philosophy emphasizes this discipline relentlessly. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that whatever happens is part of the natural order. Epictetus taught that wishing reality were different is the source of unnecessary pain. Mentally tough people internalize this wisdom. They ask one grounded question: what is required now? This mindset turns problems into tasks. Instead of complaining, they assess. Instead of emotional spirals, they focus on solutions. Instead of blaming, they take responsibility for their next move. Complaining feels productive, but it is not. It creates the illusion of action while accomplishing nothing. Mentally tough people recognize this trap and refuse it. They understand that every complaint steals focus. Every grievance drains energy. Every act of resistance prolongs discomfort. Acceptance shortens suffering by clearing the mind. This clarity is powerful during setbacks. When plans fail, mentally tough people do not waste time explaining why it is unfair. They adapt. When circumstances change, they recalibrate. When obstacles appear, they adjust strategy. They move forward without emotional baggage. Acceptance also protects dignity. Complaining publicly weakens credibility. It signals helplessness. Mentally tough people value composure. They do not broadcast frustration. They handle difficulties quietly. This does not mean they suppress emotion. They feel disappointment fully, but privately. They process emotions without turning them into identity. Another key aspect of acceptance is ownership. Mentally tough people take responsibility for their situation, even when it is not entirely their fault. This gives them leverage. Blame removes power. Ownership restores it. They do not ask who caused the problem. They ask how to respond to it. This mindset builds resilience over time. Every accepted hardship becomes training. Every challenge becomes experience. Nothing is wasted emotionally. Mentally tough people also understand impermanence. Situations change. Emotions pass. Circumstances evolve. This perspective prevents despair. It reminds them that no state is permanent, not success, not failure. Acceptance creates calm because it removes mental friction. If you want to develop this trait, stop arguing with what already exists. Observe your tendency to complain internally. Replace complaint with assessment. Replace resentment with strategy. Reality is not your enemy. Resistance is in. Mentally tough people make peace with reality so they can move forward with strength. 5. Discipline over motivation. Mentally tough people do not rely on motivation. They rely on discipline. Motivation is emotional. It rises and falls. Discipline is structural. It remains when emotions disappear. This distinction is critical. Most people wait to feel ready. They wait for inspiration, excitement, or confidence. When those feelings fade, so does their effort. Progress becomes inconsistent. Results remain unstable. Mentally tough people operate differently. They act regardless of mood. They work without emotional permission. They stay consistent when motivation is absent. Stoic philosophy emphasizes this principle clearly. The Stoics believed virtue is practiced, not felt. Action precedes emotion, not the other way around. Mentally tough people understand that discipline creates motivation, not the reverse. They build systems that function without inspiration. Habits replace hype. Structure replaces emotion. This removes friction and eliminates excuses. Discipline is uncomfortable. It demands effort when comfort calls. It requires consistency when novelty fades. This is why most people avoid it. Mentally tough people embrace it. They understand that discipline is self-respect in action. Every disciplined choice reinforces identity. Over time, consistency becomes character. They wake up when they said they would. They train when it feels pointless. They keep promises to themselves. This reliability builds confidence. Not loud confidence, but quiet trust. They trust themselves because they have evidence. Motivation lies often. Discipline tells the truth. Discipline also protects progress during adversity. When life becomes chaotic, motivation collapses first. Discipline remains. It carries people through storms when emotions cannot. Mentally tough people design their lives around this reality. They simplify decisions. They remove unnecessary choices. They reduce dependence on willpower. They do not debate whether to act. They act because action is scheduled. This approach reduces mental fatigue. Energy is preserved. Focus sharpens. Discipline also prevents self-betrayal. Many people lose self-respect because they repeatedly break promises to themselves. Mentally tough people avoid this cycle by committing to fewer promises and keeping them. They understand that small, consistent discipline outperforms intense, inconsistent effort. This mindset produces long-term success. While others start strong and fade, mentally tough people progress steadily. They do not burn out because they do not rely on emotional surges. Discipline creates freedom. When your behavior is reliable, your future becomes predictable. This stability reduces anxiety and increases confidence. If you want this trait, stop waiting to feel motivated. Act first. Let emotion follow behavior. Build routines that survive bad days. Motivation is a visitor. Discipline is a resident, and mentally tough people choose residence. If this message is strengthening you, subscribe now to the Inner Fortress. This channel is for people who build discipline, not excuses. Like this video and share it with someone who needs consistency, not motivation. 6. Silence, restraint, and selective speech. Mentally tough people are careful with their words. They understand that speech is power, and power must be used deliberately. While most people speak to relieve emotion, mentally tough people speak to serve purpose. Silence is not emptiness to them. It is control. In a noisy world, silence is rare. People talk constantly to explain themselves, defend their image, or seek validation. Words spill out of insecurity, anger, or fear. Mentally tough people resist this impulse. They do not feel the need to fill every silence. Stoic philosophy places great importance on restraint in speech. Epictetus warned that excessive talking often reveals a lack of self-mastery. Marcus Aurelius practiced saying less than necessary, not because he lacked thoughts, but because he valued precision over volume. Mentally tough people adopt this discipline naturally. They listen more than they speak. They observe before responding. They choose words with care. They understand that once words leave the mouth, they cannot be retrieved. Speech can build trust or destroy it. It can calm a situation or inflame its silence. When used wisely, often achieves more than argument. This restraint is especially powerful during conflict. When emotions run high, most people speak impulsively. They say things they regret. They expose weaknesses. They escalate situations unnecessarily. Mentally tough people pause. They allow others to reveal themselves while they remain composed. They do not interrupt emotionally. They do not rush to prove a point. Their silence creates space, and in that space, clarity emerges. Silence is not weakness. It is confidence without explanation. Another aspect of selective speech is knowing when not to defend yourself. Mentally tough people do not respond to every accusation or misunderstanding. They understand that some explanations invite more confusion. Some people are not seeking truth, they are seeking reaction. They refuse to give reactions freely. This does not mean they avoid confrontation when necessary. When speech is required, they are direct and measured. They do not raise their voice. They do not over-explain. They say what needs to be said and stop. This brevity carries weight. People listen more closely to those who speak rarely but clearly. Over time, mentally tough people develop quiet authority. Their words are trusted because they are not wasted. Restraint in speech also protects emotional energy. Talking excessively about problems reinforces them. Complaining verbally amplifies frustration. Mentally tough people process internally and act externally. They do not narrate their struggles endlessly. They do not seek sympathy repeatedly. They do not expose vulnerabilities carelessly. This discretion preserves dignity. Silence also creates space for reflection. When you speak less, you think more. When you think more, you decide better. Mentally tough people value this inner clarity. They are comfortable sitting with thoughts without expressing them immediately. This patience sharpens judgment. Selective speech also strengthens relationships. Mentally tough people do not speak impulsively when emotional. They wait until they can speak calmly. This prevents damage that words spoken in heat often cause. They understand that words shape memory. People may forget actions, but they remember how you made them feel through what you said. If you want to develop this trait, start by observing your speech. Notice when you talk to fill silence. Notice when you explain unnecessarily. Notice when emotions push words forward. Practice restraint. Speak when words add value. Remain silent when silence preserves peace. Silence is not absence, it is mastery, and mentally tough people master it well. 7. Purpose over pleasure. Mentally tough people organize their lives around purpose, not pleasure. They understand that pleasure is fleeting, but purpose sustains. While many people chase comfort, entertainment, and immediate gratification, mentally tough people prioritize meaning. This does not mean they reject joy. It means they refuse to be ruled by it. Pleasure seeks ease. Purpose demands effort. Pleasure avoids discomfort. Purpose embraces challenge. Mentally tough people choose the harder path because it leads somewhere meaningful. Stoic philosophy emphasizes living according to purpose and virtue rather than desire. The Stoics believed that chasing pleasure weakens character, while commitment to purpose strengthens it. Mentally tough people live by this principle, even if unconsciously. They wake up with intention. They make decisions aligned with long-term values. They sacrifice short-term comfort for lasting fulfillment. Pleasure-driven lives become shallow over time. When enjoyment fades, emptiness follows. Purpose-driven lives remain stable even when circumstances are difficult. Mentally tough people anchor themselves to something bigger than mood. This anchor keeps them steady when emotions fluctuate. They understand that motivation fades, excitement dulls, and happiness comes and goes. Purpose remains. This mindset shows clearly in daily choices. Mentally tough people do what needs to be done, not just what feels good. They train when tired. They work when bored. They invest time where it matters, not where it entertains. They do not ask, "What do I feel like doing?" They ask, "What aligns with my purpose?" This clarity reduces inner conflict. Decisions become simpler. Distractions lose power. Purpose also gives suffering meaning. When pain is connected to purpose, it becomes tolerable. Mentally tough people endure difficulty because they understand why they are enduring it. Without purpose, pain feels pointless. With purpose, pain becomes training. This is why mentally tough people recover faster from setbacks. They do not see obstacles as signs to quit. They see them as part of the path. Their identity is not tied to ease, but to commitment. Pleasure-oriented minds collapse when comfort disappears. Purpose-oriented minds adapt. Mentally tough people also resist overindulgence. They understand that excess dulls discipline. Too much pleasure weakens focus. Moderation preserves strength. They enjoy without excess. They rest without escaping. They celebrate without losing direction. This balance protects long-term clarity. If you want to build this trait, define your purpose clearly. Know what you are working toward and why it matters. Let that purpose guide decisions. Reduce distractions that do not serve it. Ask yourself regularly, does this move me closer to who I want to become? Pleasure fades. Purpose endures, and mentally tough people build their lives around what endures. Final massage. Mental toughness is not loud. It does not announce itself. It is built quietly, in moments no one applauds. It is revealed when life applies pressure and you remain steady. When others react emotionally, you pause. When others avoid discomfort, you endure. When others chase approval, you stand firm in who you are. These traits are not talents. They are choices, chosen daily. Practiced when it is inconvenient. Strength is not something you are born with. It is something you train, moment by moment, decision by decision. The world does not need more noise. It needs more composure. It does not need more opinion. It needs more discipline. Mentally tough people become anchors in chaos because they have mastered themselves first. Remember this: life will test you again. People will disappoint you. Plans will change. Pressure will return. When it does, return to these principles. Control your reactions. Accept reality. Choose discipline. Remain silent when silence is strength. Move with purpose, not pleasure. You do not need to prove anything. You do not need to explain yourself. You only need to remain aligned. If this message strengthened you, subscribe now to the Inner Fortress. This channel is for those who choose inner mastery over external chaos. Like this video and share it with someone who is ready to build an unbreakable mind. Stay disciplined, stay composed, stay unshaken. The fortress is built within.